Council, regular council meeting for Thursday, August 6, 2026 to order at 9:16 a.m. Apologies for the delay in the start due to some technical issues that have been now fixed up, so we're good to go. At this time, I would like to introduce Charlotte Bradlev. Charlotte joins us in her role as our Manager of Legislative Services and Clerk. So on behalf of myself, Council, and the rest of the staff, welcome, Charlotte. We're pleased to have you join us at Perth County, and I'll give you the floor for a couple of moments to say a few words if you wish.
Well, thank you very much. I know you've received my bio already, so you know that I'm not new to clerking. I've been at a number of municipalities, councils both large and small. Most notably, possibly in this role, as I was the regional clerk for the region of Peel for about a decade. So I'm very familiar with upper tier. Also of note, I see a few familiar faces around the table from my years spent with the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus as well. So I'm versed in all matters rural as well. So I'm very much looking forward to this position because it sort of nicely bundles lots of my past experiences, and I hope to be able to be a great resource to this council in many ways. So by all means, please reach out to me at any time that's convenient to you, and with any matters or questions or concerns that you may have, my door is always open. I'll let you know, I don't live in the county, unfortunately, but I do drive through Perth East to get here. I have a property in Wilmot Township, so not far, but it's a very lovely, enjoyable drive to get here compared to my last posting, which was with the city of Brampton. So lots of 400 series time spent in that role for many years. So this is a very refreshing commute for me to get to this county, and I'm very happy to be here.
Excellent. Thank you, Charlotte. All right, at this time, we'll carry on with our agenda, and we'll ask for a moment of reflection, please. Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Perth County is situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples, who have a long-standing relationship with the land and water throughout the region. We honor and respect the history, languages, and culture of the diverse Indigenous, Métis, and Inuit people who call this territory home. As a county, we have a responsibility for reconciliation and the continued stewardship of the land on which we live and work. All right, item 4, disclosure of pecuniary interests. Noting we have both councillors Agates and Smith online with us today, asking that councillors declare any pecuniary interests that they may have either now or at any time throughout the meeting. Seeing none declared at this time, I'll carry on with item 5, confirmation of the agenda. I'll turn to CAO Wolf to advise if there have been any additions or deletions to today's agenda.
Thank you. Through the word, there is one. Now that we have our new clerk attending council meetings that's joined the county, we need to pass a bylaw appointing the clerk, and generally we do that under number 10 bylaws. So we would like council to confirm the agenda as amended, which would include the addition of the bylaw for the appointments. And we're also asking that we would move that up and do that just prior to, like right after this item, prior to the consent agenda, so that she's in place for the entire meeting.
Okay. So the recommendation reads as follows: that the August 6, 2026 agenda be approved with addition of the bylaw to appoint Charlotte Bradlev as county clerk prior to agenda item 6. Moved by Councillor McDermott, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Okay. And then the bylaw reads as follows: that bylaw 4080-2026 being a bylaw to appoint Charlotte Bradlev as county clerk, effective August 6, 2026, is read a first, second, and third time and finally passed August 6, 2026. Councilor Kellum, seconded by Councilor Kasenberg. Discussion?
Can I clarify? You said 4080. I think that's the tender for DJ Jackson.
So through the warden, so the numbers will be adjusted when you're in your future, just so they're all in sequence. Thank you.
So moved by Councilor Kellum, seconded by Councilor Kasenberg. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, moving into the consent agenda. We have a fairly hefty consent agenda package, 34 items in all. Are there any items that councillors wish to extract for further comment or discussion? Councillor Kasenberg, go ahead, please.
Good morning, Warden Trentowski. Thank you. I have 4 items actually on the consent agenda that I think warrant our consideration, at least for endorsement. These are items 6.16, which pertains to a vacant land tax. 6.22 pertains to the Ontario Land Tribunal's adjudication of property matters. 6.28, which pertains to ticks in the province of Ontario, and 6.29, which pertains to hospital funding in Ontario, especially rural hospital.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they wish to extract? Deputy Warden Orr, go ahead, please.
6.3, the application conservation update.
3, okay,
Just a comment.
great. Why don't we start with yours, Deputy Warden, and then we'll get to Councillor Kasenberg's items.
Sorry, hopefully I said the right number, 6.3. So just there's the work plan update from Nathan Conservation Authority. I think it's an excellent report. I'm going to highlight page 21, the watershed stewardship services update. And I just want to commend them on the amount of trees, seedlings, and large stock trees that they planted this year. It might come up in our discussion later, so that's why I'm bringing it to your attention now.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councillor Kasenberg, go ahead with your items, please.
Thank you. Item 6.16 is a letter directed to the provincial government concerning the enhancing deference to municipal planning decisions. I think many of us are quite aware of the fact that planning decisions often are best understood at the local level by local councils.
6.22.
6.22? Oh, okay, I'm ahead of myself. That's 6.22. I'll come back to 6.16. Thank you. Okay, so with regards to 6.22, I appreciate you pointing out my error. I think many of us have come to realize that when things go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, they often evolve with or against, I suppose, the displeasure of councils that have deferred or rejected planning intent, and commonly the decision of local council, the preferences of local councils, plural, both lower tier and upper tier, are refuted by the decision of the Ontario Land Tribunal. So this resolution supports one that was put forward earlier. I'm not sure that we've offered support for this, but I certainly find myself in agreement with the intent of the resolution, which is to suggest the province needs to be thinking more clearly about what the Ontario Land Tribunal's mandate is, and take appropriate actions to seriously consider municipal council decisions pertaining to planning matters, that not automatically, which seems to be the case in a whole lot of cases, refute council's decisions about the shape and future of their communities. So I'll move an endorsement of this item 6.22.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to second that endorsement? Councilor Wilmer? Okay, so we have a mover and seconder to endorse the correspondence received. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Benny, it's carried. Councillor Kasenberg, proceed with your next item, I believe 6.16 is next.
6.16. So this one pertains to vacant land tax, and it's kind of an interesting political issue. We see properties that remain vacant for long periods of time, and sometimes, of course, I suppose they represent the interest of developers who would prefer not to have those properties duly occupied. But I'm not sure that that's in the interest of our communities, and so thus I'd like to propose that we endorse that item as well, 6.16, pertaining to vacant land tax possibilities and giving municipalities the opportunity at least to oppose same should they feel that's relevant for their.
All right, thank you. So moved. Is there a seconder for this endorsement? Councillor McDermott, the seconder. Any further discussion? Being none, I'll call the question on the endorsement. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right. Third one is 6.28.
Let's talk about ticks. It would appear that ticks are becoming a significant challenge in much of our area and even in adjoining areas of the northern and eastern United States. And if you're following the bouncing ball on ticks, it's not just the increase in the population and their implication for one disease, which we're quite aware of, West Nile, but there are another number of other diseases that ticks are capable of passing and seem to be doing so in some cases. So those are quite worrisome. There's certainly condition that I became aware of, and I think some of us might be as nervous as I am about this, where a tick bite can transmit condition where you become essentially insensitive, intolerant to the consumption of red meats. In fact, it essentially prompts you to become a vegetarian, whether you prefer that lifestyle or not. And that makes me awfully nervous, and probably should make all of us awfully nervous. So I think that it's in our interest to endorse the call in 6.28, which pertains to more significant provincial action management of ticks in Ontario, and also.
Okay, so noted and moved for endorsement. Is there a seconder? Councillor Duncan, any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of endorsement? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. And 6.29, Councillor Kasenberg, go ahead, please.
I'll wryly amuse the rest of council with the notion that I appreciate you continuing to endorse my consumption of red meat, even though my doctor might not think that's such a great idea at times. Item 6.29 then pertains to hospital funding. And hospital funding is, of course, a significant matter that all of us are very aware of, the challenges that hospitals are facing. We have been, to some degree, fortunate in Perth County that the hospitals that service our population have managed. They've managed with extreme care in trying to maintain balanced budgets in the face of growing populations, in the face of changing healthcare costs, in the face of challenges around human resources and many other matters that have some of which were originated with the pandemic. And it is now blatantly clear that there is a deficit in hospital funding that is substantial and has not kept up with population changes and changing healthcare opportunities in the system themselves. I personally have long found it objectionable that hospital capital equipment is not uniformly funded across the province, and leading to a framework of inequity where communities that have a lot of wealth built into them can afford to give to hospital foundations and cause investments that advantage their populations, whereas communities that don't have the same base do not enjoy the same privileges, and therefore, the health inequities across Ontario can continue to rise in the absence of due care. So I think any call that says to the province, it's time to fix the hospital funding system and to invest seriously and uniformly in patient access is relevant. The particular story coming from the report from the authors indicated that rural hospitals, and that would include ours, are particularly subject to financial instability. And I think it's time that we lent our voice to the possibilities that hospitals must be reliably and better funded.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for this endorsement? Councillor Kellum. Any further discussion? Deputy Leon, go ahead,
I
please.
don't have the numbers in front of me, but did our hospitals not just receive significant funding from Matthew Ray's office? I just,
The province continues, but maybe
Yes.
to make various announcements, but the fact I think remains that there's an opportunity for a system-wide clarification of how funding can occur and appropriate efforts made with regards to rural hospitals, which deal with a range of financial issues and concerns that warrant. I don't think the funding that you're referring to closes the gap by any stretch.
All right, I just don't want to annoy our people in the province too much because I want to keep the funding going. So working together, keeping the lines of communication, and I'm not opposing your idea. I just think we need to keep talking.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? I'm sure Councillor Kasenberg, the beef producers of both Perth County and Ontario, won't have any objections to your prior commentary on the meat consumption. Anyway, that's an aside. Anyway, so if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. All right, so dealing with the remainder of the items, then the resolution is that council receives the consent agenda items 6.1 to 6.34, noting the comments and endorsements, the comments on 6.3 and the endorsements for 6.16, 6.22, 6.28, and 6.29, and approves the July 2nd, 2026 council minutes. Moved by Councilor McDermott, seconded by Councilor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. All right, we will move into section 7, public meetings, public hearings, and delegations. Under 7.1, household food insecurity. We have 2 separate delegations on food insecurity. Our first one, we're pleased to have Shannon Edmonstone join us. She is with Huron Perth Public Health. Waiting for Shannon to come up to the table. And good morning.
Good morning.
Pleased to have you. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you for having me. My name is Shannon Edmonstone. I'm a registered dietitian and the public health nutritionist at Huron Perth Public Health. And I've been asked to speak about the key messages around our primer for municipalities on food insecurity and to discuss what municipalities can do. Next slide, please. Sure. Just this one? Yeah. Thank you. So food insecurity is often misunderstood. It's not primarily about food access, knowledge, or personal choice. Food insecurity refers to the inadequate or insecure access of food because of financial constraints. So in simple terms, it is not having enough money to purchase food. And this issue is becoming increasingly urgent. In 2024, 26.1% of households within Southwestern region of Ontario experienced food insecurity, which is a significant increase from years before. And so before we talk about solutions, I think it's important to address stigma. Many people assume that food insecurity is because someone has made poor decisions, has not budgeted properly, or isn't working. And the evidence tells us otherwise. Food insecurity is driven by insufficient income and increase of cost of living. And employment does not protect a household against food insecurity. More than half of households who experience food insecurity in Ontario rely on employment income. So that means that many households are working hard and still struggling to meet basic essential needs like housing, transportation, utilities, childcare, and food. So when we discuss food insecurity, we need to help reduce the stigma by focusing on system and economic conditions rather than individual behavior. The question should not be, why can't people afford food? The question should be, why aren't incomes keeping pace with the cost of living? And so by reducing stigma, we can help to create support for meaningful policy solution, while also encouraging people to seek assistance when they need it. Food insecurity is far more about what people eat. Research consistently shows that households that experience food insecurity have higher rates of physical and mental health issues, including an increased risk of chronic diseases like diabetes and heart disease, and higher rates of depression, anxiety, and mood disorders. And for children, we see issues with concentration, memory, mood, and motor skill development, making it hard for them to learn and succeed in school. When we look at broader community impacts, individuals who experience food insecurity suffer from more social isolation, and it decreases their ability to participate fully in community life and creates barriers to employment and education. And households have higher healthcare costs when they don't have enough money to purchase food. So one of the most important messages within the primer is that food insecurity is an income problem and requires income-based solutions. While food banks and other emergency programs play an important role in helping people meet their immediate need, it does not address the root cause of food insecurity. So the primer identifies 4 areas where municipalities can contribute to solutions, and they include supporting effective provincial and federal policies, fostering collaboration and collective action, improving household income, and making life more affordable for residents. So the common theme amongst all of these actions is helping to improve financial security and reducing the gap between income and basic living costs. And I want to acknowledge that I know that municipalities are already offering some of the initiatives within our recommendations. So I applaud your work, encourage continuation, and hope you will look for ways to further enhance your efforts. So one of the most meaningful differences a municipality can make is within household income. The primer highlights a living wage as one example, and a living wage reflects what workers need to earn to meet basic needs and to participate in community life. So municipalities can become a living wage employer and encourage other employers to adopt living wage practices. They can also help with practical strategies like supporting free income tax clinics through promotion and through providing rent-free spaces. Many families and individuals miss out on benefits and tax credits simply because they do not file a return. So clinics can help residents access income, such as government benefits, housing eligibility programs, and tax credits that can improve their financial security. Municipalities have a direct influence over other factors, and housing is maybe one of the most important. When households spend more on housing, less money is available for food and other necessities. So the primer encourages municipalities to continue strengthening policies that support affordable housing by increasing the supply and diversity of housing options available, supporting a housing first approach, and advocating for expansion of non-market and supportive housing. Municipalities can also reduce barriers to participation by offering affordable recreation opportunities, subsidize access to community spaces, and provide flexible service delivery options. These actions may not appear directly related to food insecurity, but when they improve affordability overall, they help households maintain enough income for basic needs. And municipalities are also have a great leadership role. The primer recommends advocating to provincial and federal governments for stronger income supports, including improvements to social assistance rates, minimum wage policies, disability supports, and child benefits. Municipalities are a trusted voice in their community, and when they work together and speak collectively about food insecurity and poverty, they can help influence broader policy change. So the primer also encourages local collaboration, bringing together public health, social services, community organization, and residents that identify priorities and advance long-term solutions. And a few Ontario municipalities have gone as far as declaring food insecurity an emergency to draw attention to the urgency of the issue and encourage a coordinated action. So to close, I'd like to leave you with 3 key takeaways. First is that food insecurity is fundamentally an income issue, not a food issue. People experience food insecurity because they do not have enough money to meet their basic needs. Second, that food insecurity is not a personal failure. It affects many people from different walks of life, including those who are employed. And we must continue to challenge stigma and promote understanding. And third, that municipalities have an important role to play through affordable housing, living wage initiatives, tax filing support, and accessible community services, advocacy, and poverty reduction efforts. And again, just to acknowledge and appreciate the work that municipalities are already doing, meaningful work in these areas, and that these efforts are making a difference to provide a strong foundation to build on. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Shannon. Councilors, any questions for Shannon on her presentation? Okay, not seeing any. I guess one thing I wanted to add, Shannon, on the municipality side, this subject has been discussed recently through not only the county, but the mayors and of the lower tiers, plus the city of Stratford and St. Mary's had discussions with the provincial government in May, and one of these was a discussion point with the provincial cabinet ministers in charge, and they acknowledge it's an issue. They have acknowledged that there are making some modest changes towards improving funding and making funding available, but I guess to use the adage, it's still a drop in the bucket. I think everybody in the room here realizes it. I think everyone in the room back in May realized it's more work to be done, which is the struggle continues because I think, as mentioned earlier on our consent agenda, there's other priorities such as healthcare that are also talked about as urgent and an emergency issue. And then later on in our agenda, we'll talk about infrastructure, another urgent issue. So it's still top of mind with us here at this council and our board here. So thanks again for keeping this top of mind with us. And if there's nothing else, thanks again for your, go ahead, Councillor Kasenberg.
Thank you, Warden. I ask staff, would we be in a position as the county to qualify for the pay wage network in Ontario? Or would we, like if you look across our pay bands and so forth, would we qualify?
City Hall, go ahead.
Through the word, yes, we're a living wage organization.
Anything else? Councillor Eggets, Councillor Smith, anything? No, all right. Thanks, Shannon, for your presentation. We'll carry on next with Chris Allen from the Huron County Food Bank, also speak to us on household food insecurity and give us perspective from the work he's doing at Huron County.
Hello.
Okay, floor is yours, Chris.
Thank you. Important members of council, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you today. But I want to start by asking one question. What does hunger look like? Because in the past, most people think unemployed, homeless, etc. But the reality is that it's The hunger looks completely different. It looks like a senior that's choosing between groceries and medication. It looks like a family where both parents work full time, but still can't make it to the end of the month. It looks like your neighbor, the coworker, the person sitting next to you at a hockey game. Food insecurity no longer has one face. It exists in every community, including ours. My name is Chris Allen. I'm the executive director of the Huron County Food Bank Distribution Center. Misconception in the name, we are in Perth County a lot. We service 13 food banks, 58 agencies, and we host 6 mobile food banks in smaller communities that are 15 kilometers or more away from a brick and mortar building. In the past year, including all of the in-kind donations, anything that we've purchased, or donations from local growers or producers, we've distributed nearly $4.5 million worth of food. Those numbers aren't what concern me. It's the increased demand of the people that need it. There's so many more people that are calling on a daily basis, a weekly basis, monthly basis. Every hamper represents somebody who has run out of options. A senior whose pension no longer stretches to the end of the month. A parent who's skipping meals so their children can eat. And a worker doing everything right. Everything that society tells them is what they need to do and they'll be okay is just not enough. They're still coming up short. So these stories are no longer an exception. They're becoming the norm. In Perth County, geography creates an even harder hurdle to cross over. If you can't afford gas, if your car breaks down, or you just can no longer drive, you have no ability to just go get food. It's not that the food is just too expensive, you just can't get there yet. Transportation becomes a difference between getting help and going without food. And that's not just with the community members, that's with our operation as well. The transportation with everything increased costs, everything goes up. Our trucks used to cost us about $160 to fill up 3 times a week. Now it's $360. I understand economics. I understand that everything's increasing. Doesn't make it better. Right? I do remain hopeful that we can fix this because I see the community at its best every single day. I'm out there. My feet are on the floor. They're on the ground. My boots are on the ground, going to all these places and talking to all the folks. We've had several communications with communities, with community leaders, community agencies, trying to work collaboratively towards a solution. I see farmers donating food, businesses stepping up, schools holding food drives, volunteers, thousands of hours of volunteering, which is hard because a lot of people have withdrawn from volunteering because they need to get a part-time job just to survive. So instead of giving their time, they have to go and work harder to get more money. Neighbors are just helping neighbors, but charity alone cannot solve food insecurity. Food banks were never meant to be a solution. They were meant to be an emergency response. But we're seeing a 29% increase over the last 12 months. That's a lot. And that's only people that are asking for help, right? There's a lot of people, as Shannon said, the stigma surrounding food insecurity, they're too proud to go and ask for help. You know, everybody needs help sometimes. Somebody in our family, somewhere down the road, somebody needs help, right? So as Shannon said as well, it impacts healthcare, it impacts education, it impacts local businesses and the strength of our communities. But people aren't asking help from these strangers, but these people are our neighbors, they're our families, they're all of us. No one should have to choose between paying a bill and buying groceries. No senior should have to skip meals to afford medication. And no child should ever have to wonder where the next meal is coming from. Together, we can change that. Collaboration is the key. There's a lot of competition out there. People want to talk about, they don't want to talk about what they're doing. You know what? I'll tell the world what we're doing. Because if we all start to work together and we collaborate, we've sat down at roundtables recently and starting to talk about those things in the community. And how do we work together to make this better? Because everybody needs to eat. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Counselors, anything for Chris on this presentation? Deputy Warden Orr, go ahead, please.
Morning, Chris. Thanks for the presentation. Now you also came up to Perth South, so I've heard it twice and just want to touch base. You have a place in Listowel or you're working toward the place in Listowel?
I really want to get a place up in Listowel. It would solve a lot of issues. Again, transportation. So I've been working on a plan to try and develop a hub. Same thing that we have down in Centralia, where we can do it up in Listowel, and then we can deliver the stuff that's north. It takes us an hour to drive to Listowel, right? So, and then their second stop is 45 minutes from there. So for us to be doing that, it takes a long time. And when I talk about the increased demand of food, I have the ability to get as much food as I want, as much food as we can handle. The problem is our space is capped. We got 6 truckloads of food this week, 53-foot trailers come in, whether it's baby food, fruits, vegetables. Got a very nice treat for ice cream that we get to send out to people this week, so that's nice. But yeah, we're out of space, and our trucks are out of space. We come to Stratford, our trucks are fully loaded. We can't fit another thing on there weight-wise. So yeah, like if we can get this going, I'm looking into trying to find a grant that I can write to grow, because this is a proven system. This works, right? We've grown 3 times the size in 12 months. We went from $1.2 million of food getting distributed to $4.5 million of food. So it works. We have the connections, we have the community partnerships. It's a matter of how do we move more? How do we get this out? How do we collaborate with other folks where we can get this up there? And then we're getting calls from even further north in Listowel, and they'd be able to access as well, right? So I think the key is collaboration. I've had a lot of conversations recently, like we have two straight trucks and a van completely full. I've been talking to a few different people. We're trying to figure out how do we get another truck. Another truck will give us the ability to move more food. Another hub with a couple of trucks, hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, millions. So we've done 3 million pounds of food in a year.
One more question. I volunteer with the school programs. Do you do all the schools in Perth County?
Soon, we have done 36 schools for the last several years. I met with the Avon Maitland and the Catholic School Board recently over the last several months, and we've been talking about expanding that with their cooperation with the Ontario School Nutrition Program to provide all 55 schools in both counties.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else? Councillor Kellum, go ahead, please.
Yes, through the warden, thank you for your presentation. How large of a building are you looking for?
You know what, I'm operating, our agency right now, we're operating on 6,400 square feet, moving $4.5 million worth of food a year. It's about, we cycle it really quick. It doesn't have to be a huge building. It just needs to, we have we can put, I think it's about 45 pallets in our freezer. We can put 30 pallets in our fridge. And we're very fortunate where we are right now, because we're inside premium transportation. So they do all of the truck loads that we get in kind for us. So that saves us a ton of money. But we're doing all that with 6,400 square feet on the floor. So it doesn't have to, I don't need a vacant warehouse. I mean, I'd love to have a vacant warehouse and just operate a huge thing, but that's not the goal. The goal is just to feed more people, feed those people that are asking for help, right? So as long as we have the capacity to bring the food in, then we can figure out the rest and move it around. It's just a matter of we're saving for a truck, we're talking to other people about trying to get a truck. And then I think it would alleviate a lot of pressure if we had a hub where our whole operation runs with 2 full-time staff. That's it, and 2 part-time staff. We have a part-time admin assistant, we have a part-time warehouse guy. because our warehouse manager he was working 60 hours a week, and he was doing the same job that somebody was doing a third of the amount of distribution and logistics, right? So we operate with a very small shell of people and a lot of volunteers, right? So we don't need a huge space. We just need that collaboration with community.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? If not, thanks, Chris, for your presentation, very informative, and we wish you all the best of success in your continued endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Right, so 2 resolutions to cover these delegations. First resolution, that council receives the delegation presentation from Shannon Edmondston at the here in Perth Public Health regarding the matter of food insecurity. Moved by Councillor Casenberg, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. All those in favor? If any, that's carried. Thank you. Second resolution, that council receives the delegation presentation from Chris Allen, Huron County Food Bank regarding the matter of food insecurity. Moved by Deputy Warden Orr, seconded by Councillor McDermott. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, moving on, section 8, staff reports. 8.1 under the CAO department. 8.1.1 updates to health and safety and human resources policies. Joining us this morning will be Crystal Holmes from the HR department. Morning, Crystal, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Warden Trentowski and members of County Council. The report before you outlines updates made to 1 health and safety policy and 2 human resources policies. As with previous policy update reviews, the changes are primarily intended to ensure our policies remain current, compliant, and aligned with best practices. The updates in the report before you focus on modernizing language and improving readability, adding definition, roles, and responsibilities, strengthening clarity around expectations and processes, and aligning policies with the county's standardized accessible policy template. The revisions to the scent reduction in the workplace policy provide a clear guidance for addressing scent-related concerns and accommodation needs while supporting a healthy and inclusive work environment for all. The photo identification policy has been enhanced to strengthen accountability, employee identification, and facility security through clearer requirements and responsibilities. And finally, the smoke-free workplace policy has been updated to better reflect current legislation and best practices, while reinforcing the county's commitment to employee health, safety, and wellness. Overall, these updates strengthen consistency, clarity, and accountability across our HR and health and safety frameworks, and support the county's ongoing commitment to a safe, healthy, and respectful workplace. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Crystal. Councillors, any questions for Crystal on this presentation? No, seeing none. All right. Recommendation reads as follows, that council receives the updates to health and safety and human resources policies report, and that council approves the updates to health and safety and human resources policies as presented. Is there a mover and seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Smith. So moved, seconded by Deputy Warden Orr. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Crystal.
Thank you.
All right, 8.2 planning services. Under 8.2.1, we have an application for plan of subdivision, a red line revision from the municipality of North Perth, file number MP 23-03. And joining us will be planner Nathan Garvin. Good morning, sir.
Thank you, Warden Trentowski and members of council. I do have a short presentation for you this morning. This is a red line amendment to the North Perth Plan of Subdivision, NP 2303. The owners are Municipality of North Perth and the applicant is MHBC Planning. The location is noted on the screen and then shown in the red dot on the slide, just the north end of Bristol. So once again, what a red line is it's an amendment to a draft plan approved plan of subdivision. So it's just correcting some technical items that have come in, some slight modification. It doesn't change the overall intent of the subdivision or plan, maintains the existing block sizes primarily. So really just does some internal changes to the overall network of the subdivision. Just the location is noted an outline. So the subject property is at the north end of Listo along Highway 23 and along line 87. So it just bisects the two properties there, two streets there. So this is a commercial and industrial plan of subdivision that's being amended. So for council's notes and consideration, the original plan of subdivision is noted on the left-hand side. So that's the original drawing showing. It does show the 5 blocks that are located there, the 3 commercial blocks and 2 industrial blocks, as well as a stormwater management plan pond that's located at the very north end. What's being amended is the access way between the industrial block and the commercial block. So that's being removed and replaced with an easement to the stormwater management pond, because there is access from line 87 to the north. So there is already access provided to that stormwater management plan pond. So it is no longer required. They are providing a easement for services to run through there. So there would be a servicing easement that's being provided as part of that, but they are removing that, I'll say, internal access way just to get a little bit more space through there. As well as the new plan does show some of the easements and additional items, but those were included in the original plan of subdivision and as part of the draft plan conditions. The site has been primarily pre-graded, so there has been a substantial amount of pre-grading done on the site, so it has been modified substantially. Currently, the stormwater management pond is taking shape, as well as a lot of the infill has been located at the further south end. So a lot of the site has been modified, and they are working towards probably installation of services later this year. Staff did receive 1 set of comments with respect to the plan. Those comments were passed along to North Perth staff just with respect to details and plans. There were no modifications. It was one of the residents located directly at the north end there. They were just wondering if there's any modifications or changes. So no changes to that plan, as it is remaining a stormwater management pond. So in policy summary, the plan does meet the official plan and zoning. No changes in the number of blocks in this case. So all the block numbers are remaining the same. Primarily the access route is changing. That's the one item being noted. There is no expansion or enlargement of the development other than those 2 blocks. So those 2 industrial and commercial blocks will get slightly bigger. And that is based on detailed design and discussions. So they have modified that as part of the detailed design and discussions. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation that Perth County Council approve red line amendment for the plan of subdivision NP 2303, subject to the conditions listed in the report. And I would note as well too, none of the conditions have been changed, just modified with respect to the area and sizes of the new draft plan. I'm happy to address or answer any questions.
Very good. Thanks, Nathan, for that report. Councilors, any questions for Nathan on this? Okay, don't see any hands up. So the recommendation reads as follows in 2 parts: that council receives the application for plan of subdivision, red line revision, municipality of North Perth, NP 23-03 report, and that council approves the application for draft of plan subdivision red line revision submitted by MHBC Planning Limited on behalf of municipality of North Perth for lands described as lot 24. Concession 2, Blissful Ward, and the municipality of North Perth, subject to the conditions in the report. Move from seconder, please. Councillor Kasenberg, so moved, seconded by Councillor Kellum. Final call for discussion. Seeing none. Call the question, or Councillor Smith, did you have a question? No, okay. All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. All right, 8.2.2, application for plan of subdivision, Parkwood Developments, file number WP 25-02. Haley Alma from Perth County Planning will join us to provide that presentation. Good morning, Haley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'll be presenting draft plan of subdivision application WP 25-02 for lands located on the west side of the settlement area of Mitchell and the municipality of West Perth. The subject property is designated as neighborhood in the county official plan and to development in the West Perth zoning bylaw. The draft plan of subdivision is comprised of 30 lots for 15 semi-detached dwellings, equating to 30 dwelling units total, a stormwater management block, a temporary easement for a temporary turning circle, which is proposed to be approximately 15 meters wide and 29.2 meters long, a temporary turning circle, and a new local road. Lots 1 to 30 will be utilized for development of semi-detached dwellings, and block 31 will contain a stormwater management pond. The proposed draft plan layout provides
for appropriate road connectivity and development lots that can accommodate future residential development compatible with surrounding and planned land uses. Technical matters including grading, drainage, surfacing, stormwater management, and landscaping will continue to be addressed through the draft plan of subdivision process, detailed engineering review, and any future development approvals as required. The application for draft plan of subdivision includes a rezoning application that the municipality of West Perth has approved in principle. The application to rezone the subject lands is proposing to amend the West Perth zoning bylaw from future development zone to 1 residential zone and 1 special institutional zone. Lots 1 to 30 are proposed to be rezoned to Mitchell Medium Density 3 Zone, R3, to allow for the construction of the 15 semi-detached dwellings. Block 31 is being proposed to be rezoned to special institutional zone I-6 to establish stormwater management. The application has received a number of studies to assist in the support of the draft plan of subdivision. Conditions were included based on the study recommendations and staff's review. The draft plan has a total of 21 conditions, which are included in the report. It is the owner and the developer's responsibility to fulfill these conditions for the draft approval as listed. Staff are of the opinion that the draft plan of subdivision application WP 25-02 is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms with the county official plan, and maintains the intent of the municipality of West Perth zoning bylaw. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Haley. Councillors, questions for Haley on this report? Okay, seeing no questions, I'll move to the resolutions. The resolution reads that council receives the application for plan of subdivision, Parkwood Developments, WP 25-02 report, and that council approves the application for draft plan of subdivision submitted by GSP Group Inc. on behalf of Parkwood Developments Limited for lands described as park lots 71, 74, and 77. Registered plan 44M-88, Mitchell Ward in the municipality of West Perth, subject to the conditions listed in the report. Report seconder, please. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconder. Councillor McDermott. Councillors, any questions? If not, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you, Haley. All right, moving to 8.3 at corporate services, 8.3.1. We have the June 2026 forestry inspectors report. Stefan Solev, our executive director, will provide us with that report. Thanks, Stefan, the floor is yours.
Good morning, council, colleagues, and members of the public. Before you is the monthly forestry inspectors report for June 2026. In the month of June, Marvin Smith, our municipal law enforcement official, has completed 4 inspections. 2 of those were as a result of submitted notices of intent, and 2 of those were as a result of requests of landowners. Before you are the details and specifics of each inspection. If there are any questions, or pass those along to Marvin.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Councilors, any questions on this report? Okay, seeing none. Recommendation is that the council receives the June 2026 forestry inspectors report for information. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. Next is 8.3.2, the 2025 draft consolidated financial statements. Report will be presented by Corey Bridges, our finance department director, accompanied by Daniel Hubbard. Thanks, gentlemen. The floor.
Thank you, Warren Trankowski. The first report before you is the draft 2025 financial statements. Based on the Municipal Act, requires the municipality to comply with generally accepted accounting principles as recommended by Public Sector Accounting Board, or PSAB. The draft consolidated statements attached reflect the assets, liabilities, and net municipal position, revenues and expenses of Perth County's financials, plus the county's proportionate share of all the municipal organizations and boards which are owned and controlled by the county, representing here in Perth Public Health and Spruce Lodge. The opinion provided by Graham Scott Ends LLP is a clean or unqualified opinion as seen on page 2 and 3 of the draft consolidated financial statements. As of December 31st, 2025, the accumulated surplus or net municipal position of the county, including the proportionate share of the municipal organizations, companies are owned or controlled by council, was just over $119 million. The presentation of a remeasurement gain or loss identifies a net gain in 2025 of approximately $570,000. This is an unrealized net gain, as we will see the gain when the disposals are done with those investments, but does bring up our accumulated surplus to about approximately $119,600,000. The county in 2025 generated almost $65.3 million in revenues, of which $25.5 million coming from Perth County taxpayers, $23.4 million coming from the provincial government, and $8.8 million coming from other municipalities. There was a sale of 2 investments in 2025 that generated approximately $1 million in investment income, and $63.7 million was the expenses for 2025, which has identified approximately $1.6 million surplus for 2025. The investments aided that surplus for 2025 that also saw a large winter maintenance cost for the year. The county did see another increase in our investments in tangible capital assets of approximately $4.7 million, but again, at the cost of our reserve balances in 2025. Capital reserves decreased approximately $2 million from 2024. If there's any other questions about the financial statements, I'd be happy to assist.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Councilors, any questions for Corey on this report? No, all right. Resolution reads as follows. That council receives the 2025 draft consolidated financial statement report, and that council approves the consolidated financial statements for the fiscal year ended December 31st, 2025, as audited by the firm Graham Scott Ends LLP. Moved by Councilor McDermott, seconder. Councilor Wilhelm. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, moving on to 8.33, 2025 financial results and year-end reserve transfers. Go ahead, Corey.
Thank you, Warden and Council. Along with the draft financial statements, municipality looks at their surplus deficit for 2025. Finance staff has determined the budgeted surplus deficit for the county in an amount of just over $1 million or $1,068,500. Again, the majority of this deficit relates to county's public works winter maintenance program, which ended with a total deficit in 2025 of $2.26 million. This report identifies recommendations on transferring of the roads reserved to cover that portion of the shortfall, with the remaining shortfall being covered by what has been identified as favorable pricing in the 2026 year of the roads and bridges projects. So the temporary coverage of the remainder deficit be covered by the working fund reserve. Council staff seeks council's approval to transfer the funds from the reserve or return funds to reserves. Within the report, there is a detail of where the surplus deficits are identified within each of the divisions. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
All right, thank you, Corey. Councilors, questions? Councilor Wilhelm, you're first on the speakers list.
Thank you. I guess I'm always concerned when we go over budget, and with the largest being the winter maintenance and roads, I can understand that. But I see that economic development was over by 84,000. Can you explain the reason behind that?
Within the program, there was additional advertising that was spent in the program. Again, there was grant funding, but it covered a portion of that. Overall, the program was over budget by 84,000.
Anything else? Maybe before I take any more questions, I'm just gonna ask council, would it be appropriate to receive further information from economic development? To your question, Councillor Wilhelm, or you?
I would appreciate that. Why else do we have a budget if we're not gonna keep within the bounds of it?
Okay, can we take that as direction, clerk, or do we need it?
I guess it just depends on the scope of the reporting, would it be substantive?
No, you're just looking just for a brief.
Yeah,
Reporting council.
Yes.
We'll take that as direction. Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the speakers list? Deputy Warden Nora?
Yeah, more, maybe a question, maybe a comment, but I'm really getting concerned about our levy stabilization fund. Do we not need to consider? Can't use that anymore. To me, it's almost gone. And do we, which I can't believe that we're using all of these reserves and we're not putting more back into it. I know it always comes down to the number, but I'm concerned. Do you want to comment on that?
Through the warrant to Deputy Warden Orr's question, this is the difficult situation that we're in. We're battling the cost of increases of municipalities and providing services at the level that we need to provide services, but also trying to keep in mind of the cost to the taxpayer. So in the situations that we're in, we haven't seen surpluses for a few years now, but we've also utilized the reserve to help soften the increases of the municipality for the county of Perth. But it is the two-edged sword that we're in, trying to maintain and provide services at levels that we need to provide them, but also concerned with the level of the increases that county has seen over the past number of years. We're trying to get in a situation where we try to replenish those reserves, but also be cognizant of the taxpayer.
Anything else?
No. Just, we are going for a delegation in AMO regarding OMPF funding. You're going to speak to that. And that is one of our largest impacts over time.
Just to highlight back to the draft financial statements, I think this is the first year that the municipal property tax revenue exceeded the provincial transfers that we do receive. Historically, provincial transfers were greater than our property tax revenues. 2025 is the first year where we see that number exceed our provincial transfers.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, no other questions, maybe just one comment to fellow councillors and staff. I think it's important to keep our other, you mentioned 8.8 million is contributed from others. I take that to be Stratford and St. Mary's. It would be important to include those localities in the conversation at some point in the future to remind them that this is in some ways, this is a shared existence. That Perth County is not an island, so it's going to need some attention and contribution from those two localities as well. Coming budget, so it's just a comment. All right, if nothing else, recommendation reads as follows: that council receives the 2025 financial results and year-end transfers report, and that Perth County Council approves effective December 31, 2025, the following reserve transfers. $237,006 transferred to the paramedic services WSIB reserve. $544,631 transferred from the capital roads reserve. And item 3, $760,827 transferred from the county working fund. They're moved and seconded for that resolution. Moved by Councilor McDermott, seconded by Councilor Duncan. Councilors, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Item 8.3.4 is the 2026 second quarter operating and capital budget mid-year financials report. Dan Hubbard will bring that to us. Good morning, Daniel. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, members of council. The Q2 variance update shows that county spending is tracking as expected at mid-year, with 48% of the annual budget spent, consistent with prior years. Winter maintenance continues to trend as expected for 2026, with 62% of the budget spent by the end of March, and the remaining seasonal activity estimated using historical averages. Year-end costs are projected to align with budget. Operating expenditures are generally stable at mid-year, with a few areas being monitored more closely. Fleet contractor and material costs are trending above budget due to higher usage and rising parts prices. And WSIB costs within paramedic services continue to create pressure. Capital spending sits at 5.7%, which reflects normal seasonal timing. Staff are also monitoring significant volatility in the liquid asphalt cement index, which reached a record high in June, as expected to create roughly $170,000 in cost impacts for upcoming paving work. These pressures can be absorbed within existing contingencies, but asphalt market volatility continues to present budget risk for the remainder of the construction season. If there are any questions, Corey and I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Councilors, any questions for Daniel on this report? Deputy Warden Orr, go ahead, please.
Thank you for the report. I mean, we're about halfway, so I think that's making sense to me. Last meeting, we had some legal fees for integrity commissioner. How much would that be and where would that find?
Yeah, so through the warden, the integrity commissioner can be found under the council's budget. And as of June 30th, approximately 16,000 has been spent. And we're estimated to be about $20,000 spent by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none. Recommendation reads as follows: that council receives the 2026 Q2 operating and capital budget mid-year financials report for information. Moved by Councilor Wilhelm, second by Councilor McDermott. Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, 8.3.5 cost of living adjustment for 2027. Corey, go ahead with the report, please.
Thanks, Warden Trankowski and council. So the cost of living adjustment for 2026 was 1.99%. The average for the July to June of 25 to 26 is 2.34%. Inflation has heated up slightly over the past 12 months period. But again, it's maintained within the 1 and 3 target as outlined by Bank of Canada. Brushing the 3% limit in May, exceeding only in the May mark. Inflation has increased modestly over the 12-month period, but again remains within the Bank of Canada's target. This report is identifying the impact for the purpose of wages, cost of living, effective January 1, 2027. And the impact overall based on this result would be approximately $200,000 to the non-union wage salaries for 2027. If there's any questions regarding the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Councilors, anything for Corey on this report? Councilor Eggets, go ahead, please.
Through you, Warden, I believe that instead of giving a
You're
percentage.
muted. Go on.
I'm not muted.
Okay, no, go ahead. There's just a bit of a delay. Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Okay. Through you, Warden, I believe that we should be changing how we do this. I think that instead of a percentage of each of the people's wages, it should be a percentage of the happy medium. We heard this morning how there's so many people around that can't afford food, and they're getting that they can't even afford their taxes, and yet we want to give an increase of about 200,000 across the board. I think we need to find a different way or do something a little different here.
Okay, are you making a motion to find a different way, or what's your wishes?
I'd like to hear what the rest of my colleagues have to say, and then, yes, I would like to make a motion after they're done, if anyone else, any comments.
All right, thank you. Councillors, anything further on this? Councillor Wilhelm, go ahead.
Yes, just wondering if we have this in our budget. The increase in
Staff.
So the items provided you in the preliminary budget included 2% impact on the estimated amounts. And that was already built into what has been identified at approximately 8% increase for the 2027 budget year.
Supplemental?
But what about 26? Because I would assume it would take effect
Sure.
in 26.
Yeah, so in 2026, there was council approved at 1.99%. That 1.99% was included in the 2026 budget.
All right, anyone else? Deputy Warden Hart?
The rate of 2.34 is the median.
Yes, it's the average over the 12-month period.
Okay, I see no further hands up, so what are council's wishes? Councillor Eggets, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we receive it for information, and that the council have staff look into what the average wage would be in the county and what that increase would be with using that average wage.
Okay. Clerk's recording something here, so I'll ask the clerk to read it back once she's had a chance to compile the words. So I'll deal with the first motion. I'll deal with the first part.
Excuse me, point of order. I have a motion on the floor. Do you not have to get a seconder before you move on?
Well, I was going to receive the report first, Councillor, and then we can carry on, but we should receive the report first.
I included that in my motion.
Okay. All right, so I'll wait for the clerk to read it back.
That the report be received for information and that staff be requested to examine the average wage for all salaries within the county, non-union, and find the median thereof.
Okay, does that satisfy your intent, Councillor Eggets?
I think so. Like what I'm saying is, as long as it says this, that you take everybody's wage, find out the average, and then that 2% is on that average. Is that how that was? Could she read that again?
Yeah, I'll ask the clerk to read it back.
That staff be requested to examine the average wage for all non-union salaries within the county and find the median thereof.
Yes.
Okay, so have a mover, seconder, please. Councillor Smith. All right, duly moved and seconded. Discussion. Councillor Wilhelm and then Councillor Duncan.
I guess I would have to ask, does that cover all different bands? Because to me, it would have quite a difference in the different bands of the staff. And how do you determine the average? Whether that's equal or not?
That's my intent, if I may speak again. That's my intent.
Mary McKeon will come to the table to try and address these questions. Go ahead, Marian.
Through the warden, so we do perform the market salary review every 4 years. So we're in year 2 of it. So we do have the comparator data with regards to individual salary bands. If what we're looking at now is what the cost of living would be across different organizations, that is an ask that we can complete.
Okay. Is that? Councilor Higgins, does that work for you?
I guess my thinking is that the little guy never gets bigger and the big guy gets a huge increase. So as long as, if you want to do it by department, is that what you're thinking here?
No, it wouldn't be by department. So we already do the individual bands where we benchmark the positions to other positions. So we do that every 4 years. Like I mentioned, we're in year 2 of that. So the next cycle isn't till 2028. So as you'll recall, our salaries were benchmarked at 50th percentile. So we weren't the highest and we weren't the lowest, and we were right in the middle, with management salaries being at the 45th percentile. So slightly below average. If we're, I think the ask is with regards to specific cost of living, what other employers, both like public and private, are doing, and that's data we could gather.
But that's not really getting to the issue that I'm trying to get across. It's someone that gets 200,000 compared to someone that gets 80,000. It's a big difference, and I don't want it done according to the band. I want it done according across the board of the employees. Take all the employees, treat them all equal, and divide if the salaries come to whatever the number comes to, divide by the number of employees, and that's what you get the increase on, not each band individually. That's not what I'm looking for.
Staff would.
I'm not 100% sure on yes.
Okay, I think if I'm understanding this right, Councillor Higgins, if the overall increase for the employees is, I'm just going to use a hypothetical number, $250,000, and you had 1,000 employees, then you would divide the number that way, correct? Is that the theory?
That's what I'm looking for, yes.
Okay, right, is that clear to staff then?
So if you ask what other companies do that, or just what the result would?
I think just what the result would be, correct, Councillor Higgins?
Correct.
Yes. Yes. All right. All right, so I think Councillor Duncan.
I'm just gonna suggest maybe a cleaner way to do this is the same way we decided to do it at the Maitland Valley Conservation. We took the midpoint of the salary grid and applied the overall increase to the midpoint number in the salary grid. Is how we did it there.
Okay. So the midpoint, say it again, please, the
Midpoint of the salary grid, and applied the like our number here is 2.34. I just can't recall off the top of my head what it was for us last year there, but that way it equaled out better for the lower end to the top end.
Okay. How does that align with your intent, Councillor Higgins?
Yeah, I would be in favor of doing it that way. I don't know if you want Councillor Duncan to make an amendment to my motion, you want me to change my motion, or how do you want to proceed? Because that's not really what my motion says, right?
No, so Councillor Duncan, you're looking to amend the original motion to include that?
I guess we could ask staff to include that in the motion, have staff to look at it and see what it looks like numbers wise.
And report that back.
And report that back to council.
Okay, is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Higgins, so seconds. Waiting for the clerk to read the amendment out.
But staff be requested to apply the equation to the midpoint of the salary grid. And report back on the number resulting.
Okay. That satisfies Councillor Higgins as seconder?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion on the amendment? Councillor McKenzie.
I guess my concern is with this whole motion. Like I have a, I guess, little bit of an issue, like certainly, Corey has brought in what the cost of living is. And I think we all agree, the formula that's used to figure the cost of living with the Bank of Canada. There's nothing wrong with that, and I would agree with that. And I guess what I'm saying, I would feel more comfortable if the motion was kind of split, that we accept Corey's report. And then if you want to deal with what Rhonda wants to do with how you implement it, you know, because there's nothing wrong with Corey's report. But with the other mix in there, I'm not sure that I want to support the whole thing. The issue that you get into, and I hear what Matt is saying, and we've had this discussion at our council too, where somebody that ends up making 10 loaves of bread and the person at the bottom only gets one, you know, and they're trying to divvy it up that everybody gets 5 loaves. And, you know, maybe there's a way of doing that. But, and Marion highlighted or mentioned also, well, like every 4 years we do a market survey. And so if you're doing a particular job within the county, you're compared that job with what it is in another county or another municipality. And I guess I'm a believer in like pay for like work too. So we're kind of treading here on mixing how we do things up. But my main concern is that I think it should be split out, because I do agree with the report. It's straightforward. It's how it was figured out. But where we go from there, it's maybe a little mucky.
Councillor Kaisenberg, go ahead.
I'm apparently not an accounting genius, because I'm looking at this and trying to make sense of what it is we're trying to achieve, right? Staff has brought forward a report that speaks to the annualized inflation rate, I guess, from as calculated from statistics provided by the Bank of Canada. If I'm following the bouncing ball, if we adopt this 2.34%, that means that everybody from the lowest paid employee in the organization to the highest paid employee in the organization gets 2.34% pay increase. Now, that preserves the integrity of the band system. I'm not sure why I see a worrying about the median. Like I'm missing something apparently, and maybe it's my math skills. I should have paid more attention in grade 8 or grade 9. But I'm not sure I see why looking at the median is valuable, because if you're giving 2.34% across the board through the grids at every person's salary, then what does the median have to do with it? Not much, from what I can tell. Although I'll defer to the warden, who has good math experience and background and training. Maybe he or the accounting team can explain this to me. If our intent is to compress the bands so that people at the lower end of our salary grid get actually more money to adjust for inflation, that's a policy decision that has its benefits and it has its risks. And I'm sure the HR manager could unpack for us, or HR director could unpack for us the risks that are associated with compressing those bands in an appropriate way. But I'm not sure that I understand the amendment to the resolution, which is different than what's here, because at the end of the day, what was in the report was, here's a methodology we've used for years. It's a rational methodology that uses the inflation rate, and everybody in the organization is going to get paid a little more to compensate for the inflation rate in Canadian society. If we want to say, wait a minute, there's a different inflation rate per county, that's a different question. And to me, that sounds like a really complicated and hard to answer question from collecting the data. Like, how would you collect the data on what the actual inflation is in Perth County? I won't know, but I think it would send staff into an operation that would be massive in its scope and probably not yielding very much. So with regards to the amendment, I don't understand it. With regards to the resolution, I would like to know what the intent is from a policy perspective, and then I could make a judgment. But I admit I am confused.
Okay, thank you. My math skills notwithstanding, I'll ask the mover of the amendment to further explain, and then I will ask the mover of the motion to further explain to help satisfy Councillor Kasenberg's questions. So turn to Councillor Duncan first. Go ahead, please.
You have to let me think for a minute on this. The reason it was done at Maitland Valley is senior management thought the difference, the wage gap continually got to be wider and wider. So what the idea was, by applying the CPI to the midpoint of the grid, was it didn't continue to stretch the wage gap with the CPI. Probably not explaining that the greatest. Everybody would get a dollar amount as opposed to a percentage.
Go ahead.
Yes, that's through the wording. So with the salary grid, when you've reached the top step, that top dollar goes up by the CPI. So there's always a cap, so we don't necessarily have the same fluctuations. The reason we do every 4 years and in between in mid-year council term is to make sure that, you know, we have the proper due diligence and it's not coming up to term ending. So overall, what we had decided as a policy decision was that staff that were not management would receive the 50th percentile, and management staff would receive the 45th percentile. So representing that differential already, that we wanted our staff to be better represented when we're looking at the overall averages. From the motion, what I was assuming was I would bring back the option so you could see how it would look if applying an increase to the midpoint won't work on our salary grid. That would distort it. So it would just be resulting in most likely like lump sum payments to bands from bands 8 and below, rather than trying to adjust the salary grid where we'll end up with other issues that Councillor Kasenberg mentioned, which would be compression and inversion, which would be actually worse.
3-4%. A lot of people in the public sector don't even get this increase. So we're making it tougher and tougher for our residents to pay their taxes and do everything else. There's only one taxpayer. I don't know why everybody can't get that through their head, but there is. So that's what I'm trying to get at. Someone's going to get a huge, huge increase. Some of them aren't. So why not go to Matt's thing, have a happy medium if we're going to give anything, or maybe we shouldn't even give an increase. I don't know. But we can't afford to keep doing what we're doing. I'm sorry. The taxpayers are getting further and further in the hole. So that's why I was looking to more as a happy medium. Keep everybody's going to get something, and they're all going to get the same, instead of somebody gets a huge amount and somebody gets a lot lesser amount. I don't get that kind of an increase in my occupation. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just backtracking a little bit, like staff will report back. Like if these motions and amendment goes through, staff will report back and there will be a report. And I'm expecting to see charts and tables and numbers and comparisons and for further reflection and discussion and possible decision by council, correct?
Did you want me just to repeat the options that I'll put forward?
Yeah, if you could please, just briefly.
So we'll look at wages with the CPI across the board for each of the bands. Then we'll look at application of a higher proportion of the overall. So we would take 2.8 Yes, 2.34. Take that as a sum total and then divide that what that envelope would be amongst the bands. It would be resulting in different types of lump sum payments for anyone who hits the cap of the band. And also what the overall average in the public and private sort of local municipalities from some of our local wage surveys, what their CPI index would be for the year, just to have that as.
Okay. And how soon could council anticipate to see that report come back?
I'll look to my friends in finance. The data is available. I don't anticipate it is difficult. We're already on those survey lists, so I can give the percentages. That's not an issue.
First meeting in September.
So first meeting in September with this to come back to the agenda for further discussion, okay? All right, thank you. All right, so we have a resolution with an amendment, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? And I tried to, through staff, and tried to clarify what direction and expectation and timing. So is there any further discussion on this? Councillor Killen.
Yeah, through you, Warden, just a comment. So we have our county hats on here for setting a precedent here. I sure hope we're gonna do it at the lower tiers as well. Just a comment.
Okay, so noted, thank you. Anything else? All right, where do we go?
So
Deal with the amendment first?
if we would like to vote on the amendment first, that staff be requested to calculate the point of the salary grid, the midpoint of the salary grid, and report back on the number resulting and impacts there too, possibly to add to factor impacts that are going to be noted to the first meeting of September.
Okay. That satisfies the mover and seconder.
And the seconder for that was, I'm sorry.
Councillor Higgins, leave. All right, so that is the amendment motion, moved and seconded. Final call for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? 3, 2, 3, 7 favor, or okay, opposed. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, that is defeated. Amendment is defeated. So I'll ask clerk to read out the main motion, please.
The main motion is the recommendation within the report that council receives the 2027 cost of living adjustment bracket COLA report for information. And the council approves the rate of 2.34% based on the average CPI for the preceding 12-month period as an increase to the county non-union salary grid and remuneration for members of council and committees effective January 1, 2027.
Okay, is that the original motion? Is that correct, Councillor Higgins? It is, okay. All right, any further discussion on that main motion?
I'm not following, Councillor Bell. There was an amendment initially proposed by Councillor Higgins.
Yes.
Then there was an amendment to the amendment.
Yes.
Right? So what did we
Okay,
just vote on?
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm getting a little bit caught up in the words here. So we dealt with the amendment to the amendment. So what I meant to do was to deal with Councillor Higgins' per amendment. Sorry, okay, I used the wrong words.
So that's not the one that's in the
No,
report, which I
no.
believe the clerk.
No, that's my mistake, sorry. So I want to deal, we dealt with Councillor Duncan's amendment to the amendment. Now I want to deal with Councillor Eggett's amendment to what was originally in the agenda. So my mistake, sorry.
Very good. My apologies. I understood that Councillor Eggets had accepted that.
Yeah,
as an
well,
amendment.
we'll just,
I can
yeah,
read out
let's
the
just do it again, please.
original amendment now. That staff be requested to examine the average wage within all of the salary non-union things. Well, all, I beg your pardon, average wage within all of the salaries non-union within the county.
There we go. Okay. Councillor Eggets, you're good with that? Okay, all right. You're good. All right. So on that motion, all those in favor? 2, 4. Opposed? That is defeated. Now we're back to square one with the original motion, or what does council wish to do? Looking for hands. I need direction. I need someone to put their hand in. Councillor Cullen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to the original.
Original, okay, and I'll have the clerk read the original, please.
Just a second here for the original.
Okay. Second, Councillor Caseberg seconds. Go ahead.
Thank you. That council receives the 2027 cost of living adjustment report for information, and the council approves the rate of 2.34% based on the average CPI for the preceding 12-month period as an increase to the county non-union salary grid and remuneration for members of the council and committees effective January 1, 2027.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? This motion is carried. All right, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Council wish to take a recess, brief recess. Okay, we will take a brief recess quickly, please, to refresh and recalibrate. We still have some more work to do.
Thank you.
It's 11:02. We've had our comfort break. We're back onto our agenda. Item 8.4, Public Works, starting with sub item 8.4.1. We have a report on the 2027 Perth County Stewardship Program. Welcome, Bill Wilson from Public Works. The floor is yours. Good morning, Bill.
Thank you, Warden Trinkowski. Morning, Council. Through you, Warden. The purpose of this report is to present the 2027 Perth County Stewardship Program Guide and to request Council's approval for 2 administrative modifications intended to refine the program delivery. The program has operated since 2024 to support voluntary landowner-led soil and water stewardship projects. To date, the program has processed 99 applications, resulting in 43 kilometers of windbreaks and over 28,000 trees planted. Administratively, staff estimate that these projects have provided an annual greenhouse gas sequestration equivalent to roughly 10.5% of the county's operational emissions. Because the program was oversubscribed in 2 of its active 3 years, managing this high community demand within the program resource allocation is essential. To address prior council feedback regarding fund distribution and efficiency, staff are proposing 2 administrative controls to regulate the upcoming intake process. First being application caps. Application caps to ensure equitable access across the community. Individual applicants will be limited to 1 project stream per property per year. This prevents funds concentrations across multi-parcel ownerships and allows the program to support broader and more diverse group of landowners. Additionally, local municipal projects, so applications from lower tier municipalities will be moved out of the community stream to a separate internal process. This eliminates the redundant administrative loops for local municipal staff. All data and project outcomes will remain fully consolidated into our annual reporting and in order to maintain transparency. These proposed refinements require no additional funding and carry no operational cost increases. They are brought forward strictly as administrative tools to better manage existing community demand within the current resource limits. The draft 2027 program guide is attached to the report, and if there are any questions, I am available to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Councillors, questions for Bill on this report, please. Councillor Smith and then Councillor Wilhelm. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Thanks, through you, Warden. Just curious, is Hannah on vacation? I'm just curious as why she didn't present the report.
Through the warden. Through the warden, she wasn't available today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all good.
Councillor Wilhelm, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. For the 2026 grant funding, I believe we had a number of, or a couple of contractors that did a lot of work for property owners, or different properties, but they were under basically one ownership. And to me, this change does not correct that. It says per property. And so if an owner has 10 properties, they can get 10 grants. And I do have a bit of a problem with that.
Staff. Yeah, through the warden, the issue that was addressed through this amendment or this change here to the program application is that previous intakes, as in 2026, identified that there was certain landowners or certain properties where they had been successful in applications for multiple properties on the same property. That is no longer supported through this. That being said, if there are multiple properties under the same ownership, having different pins, they would still be able to apply for projects on those individual properties.
Who's next? Councillor Duncan.
So in that case, Bill, when the project, and I'm assuming the agricultural committee still goes over the projects and approves them prior to. Would there be weighting towards someone who doesn't have multiple properties as opposed to someone who does? I guess what I'm saying is, say we get to the maximum limit and somebody has 5 projects and somebody has 1. Does that person with 5 projects only get 4, so the 1 gets included? You know what I'm saying when it comes to weighting the projects and deciding who gets the money?
Yeah. Through the warden, I can't be certain if there is a specific criteria in the weighting system that addresses that. However, I believe that there is preference giving to new projects and new landowner applications over those who have previously applied to the program.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Warden Orr, your next, please.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna probably come out sounding negative here, but I'm not a fan of how we're operating this program. I believe it's the lower tiers we pay category 3 options when it comes to the conservation authorities. And I think the conservation authorities all do a really good job. And we work well together with them. And not meaning to pick on Bob here, but I've known Bob for many years, have known how he plants more trees than probably anyone around here. And he works directly with conservation authorities, and he manages to get funding back. I don't understand why if we're wanting to give the 100,000 away, first of all, I do really like that. I don't understand why our lower tiers need to apply to our upper tier. It should be an automatic that the lower tiers get X number of dollars towards their tree planting services, whatever they want to offer. They know their people, they should be a part of that. But secondly, I think that the way the conservation authorities do it is, in a case like Bob, he has invested in his land and then he gets money back. They're monitoring that. They are planting more trees than ever. And I just don't feel that we are being very effective with gifting 100,000 towards this program, because it cost us more than 100,000 to gift away. And I would like to see us not scrap it completely, but I would like to see us work directly with the conservation authorities, because I think we get more trees in the ground now.
Okay, anyone else? Right, I have to turn to the clerk and ask for presiding prayer, because I'd like to enter the discussion, please.
And with the deputy warden, he will sit up.
Okay, so through the presiding chair, a couple things. First of all, Councillor Wilhelm's concerns. I too have concerns, specifically having seen the applications come through at the working committee level. You will tend to find historically more than 1 year through the life of the program so far, property owners, I'll say within property owners with the same last name with different properties, they will have X number of properties receiving. Okay, that's fine the first year, but then it keeps happening year after year. And someone pointed out, well, what, like Councillor Duncan said, well, what happens when a new applicant comes in there and there's a finite amount of money, so not everyone gets their full ask, they're capped, so then the money has to be prorated. So I would prefer to see the newcomer be put to the top of the priority list, receive their full amount, as close to their full amount as possible. And I'll say the repeat applicant who's already enjoyed the benefit of the program previously, their priority should be dropped in favor of the new applicants. That's clear. That's one improvement or adjustment I would like to see. And insofar as the conservation authorities, yes, they do an excellent job. But I will go back to the origins of the program and the public discussion. Public were adamant that they wanted choice, whether it was through CAs or other means to obtain their trees. Not everybody wants to deal with the conservation authorities to obtain their trees through this program. That was mentioned by the public at all of our engagement meetings. So I would still like for the landowners to have their specific freedom of choice as to where they get the trees. It's their application, it's their property. They will want to do what they want to do with their property. So those are the 2 points I wanted to bring forward. I can yield the floor.
Any comments?
Would you like a motion on that about how they rank the whoever wants the money?
I would be so prepared to make an amendment to what I want to say, to adjust the prioritize, to make new applicants, assign them a higher priority in the consideration of the funds.
Do we have anything on the floor right now?
No. So we first have to make a motion as to the direction that we're going. So anybody like to make a motion? And I think we should do these, like, there's a few pieces to the puzzle here, so let's not lump them together. Let's go one by one. Did you want to make any more comments?
No more comments.
Do you want the floor back?
Well, I think I'll take the floor back.
Okay.
The clerk has his suggestion and based on our discussion.
This doesn't mean this is accommodating the request for a review of how the program is structured and its prioritization of applications. In this case, perhaps a referral back to staff to look at further revisions to the program.
If I might, Councillor Jameson, thank you, Warden. I think for referring this back to staff, I want to give them some direction about council's policy wish here. And I think the Warden and the discussions we've had suggest that, thank you, Councillor Dunn, for starting there too, suggest that perhaps we should advantage as a policy decision those who are new applicants to the program versus repeat applications from either prior years or multiple applications in the current stream with regards to how we move forward. So to me, I'd be happy to see a resolution that would take that effect, that would direct staff to bring back appropriate language modifications to that end. I would move that. I would suggest that if we move that, then the next resolution is to move forward with approving the program modifications. The question is, do we need to approve those today or wait until we receive the new language that comes back from staff? Or I would argue that perhaps we should wait, although I don't understand the timing considerations that would be involved with the beginning of September.
Okay, thank you. So the timing questions, I'll refer to either the CAO or Bill. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the warden, recommendation would be that you deal with the report recommendation so we can proceed to get everything ready. The evaluation piece, certainly you can give that direction to refer that aspect back to staff. They'll come back and tell you how they're going to evaluate it, but it doesn't need to be in the program guide and that sort of thing. But our timelines are, that's why it's here in front of you right now so that we can launch. So that's the recommendation to proceed.
Okay, so just to be clear then, so council would receive the report for information and then what?
Receive the report for information, approve the 2 changes that we're recommending, and refer to staff the matter of evaluation and having preference to new, the waiting for preference for new applicants. And that would be a separate report back just on the waiting piece.
the
Looking at colleagues, I don't think that's what we talked about exactly. Why don't we start with just, we'll receive the report for information. Can we do that part? Okay, so moved by Councilor Wilhelm, seconded by Councilor McDermott. So to receive the report information, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Okay. So there was discussion and various councillors had indicated, including myself, had indicated that they had concerns and they were seeking changes. So based on what staff's comments have been so far, it would be appropriate to take those comments back to staff and then come back with a follow-up report where we can examine those changes more closely. Am I reading the room correctly, Councillor McKenzie?
Yeah, that, I think, general consensus, I did have I guess a question or a comment, but can address it to my colleagues or to Bill, because I was only through this agricultural committee on one occasion. But my understanding is that there's various points and they're scored so many points for this and that and the other thing. And I believe that one of them was if you're a new applicant or not. And it's probably just a matter of going through the scoring system and tweaking it a little bit so that a new applicant would score higher points than one that's applied before. But yeah, that goes back to what our original thought is refer it back to staff and come back and show us how they're doing it or what they would suggest. So I would move that if you're looking for a motion.
The motion would be
To refer back to staff with our concerns about we mainly talked about previous applications or whether it's a new application.
namely, so refer back to staff, namely just trying to get the wording.
Well, we look at this whole scoring system, I guess, if you want to remember the scoring system, how it's awarded.
Scoring and evaluation system.
Sure.
But to me, I think there was a principle that we had been discussing, which was that explicitly we would like to favor new applicants versus returning or multiple dense applications from the same essential property group. So if the motion captures that idea sufficiently, then okay. But if it doesn't, then I would prefer to see a motion that at least gets us to the policy premise, so that staff is not coming back with a mountain of options that don't address council's specific interests.
So refer back to staff, a part, namely a review of the scoring and evaluation system that would give preference to first-time applicants. Am I capturing that right, Councilor Wilhelm?
I think so, and also, I would, like I expressed before, my concern on a property owner that has multiple parcels of land. I don't believe they should be, for example, if a new applicant comes in and they have 10 properties, they shouldn't get grants for all those 10 properties. And someone with one property does not receive anything. So I'm not sure how the staff wants to work that, but that's what I'm thinking.
I'll refer back to staff. And report. So what we're looking for then, Councilor Wilhelm, is a procedure to red circle multiple property applications.
Yes, approval procedure.
Oh, okay, I should turn to the clerk and use her resources. Go ahead, Charlotte.
That staff be requested to review the program scoring and evaluation system with a view to enhancing the prioritization of new applications over previous recipients.
Okay, that's the first one, and then Councillor Wilhelm on the red circle.
Multiple property owners.
Would that be a policy for one application per year per property owner? So if the property owner gets charged,
Per property, yeah.
it's a policy decision. They can choose what stream it is, they just get one kick at the can.
Such as one application per year per property.
Yeah.
So the staff be requested to review the program scoring and evaluation system with a view to enhancing the prioritization of new applications over previous recipients. Such as one application per year per property owner.
Deputy Warden, or?
Well, finish this first and then I'll.
Okay. So that's direction to staff. To report back. At the earliest possible opportunity to council. I don't want to presuppose how long that's going to take staff to do, but probably this sometime in September is the expectation. Being mindful that the program launch is coming up this fall, so I would anticipate staff would want to turn this around quickly. All right, so I'll get the clerk to read out the motion one more time just for clarity, and then we can see.
That staff be requested to review the program scoring and evaluation system with a view to enhancing the prioritization of new applications of previous recipients, such as one application per year per property owner, and report back to council thereon at the earliest opportunity.
Okay, is there someone willing to move that? Councillor Casenberg, seconder Councillor McKenzie. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Okay, got something else, Deputy Warden Norm?
Sure, I just wanted to clarify, going back to the agricultural group, that is advisory only. Decisions where these things go come to this council. I don't even know why we're going to agricultural group, so I want to clarify that. Secondly, can we bring up that this payment to the contractors? I feel we got taken advantage by one person last year. And I feel that we should not be paying the contractors for their work. Again, I have no problem planting trees. I want to get more trees in the ground. But people are benefiting their business through this program, and I have a real problem.
So noted. Councillor Smith?
I agree with Councillor Orr. I thought maybe we addressed that concern a while ago. I guess it sounds like we did not. Just a point of clarification.
Staff, have any further comment on that? I don't recall any specific direction.
Through yourself, Warden, no further comment to that really. That was, I believe, before council earlier in March, I believe, through the stewardship program information. There was some discussion there, but no direction.
Okay. Deputy Warden North?
I'd like to make a motion then that we remove contractors' fees, or contractors can't apply for their work for the program. We did that, we started that, then we took it out, and then we put it back in. And I really feel we need to leave it out.
So your motion is the contractor cannot make the submission on behalf of the landowner. It has to be the landowner themselves, or
Well, the contractor can do the submission, but it's his physical work. That is, the more we pay the contractor, the less trees go in the ground.
so it's the actual payment of labor by the
Labor.
contractor.
That's what I'd like to do.
Okay. That's your motion? Is
Yes.
there a seconder for that motion? Councilor Wilhelm? Oh. The motion, I'll just ask the clerk to read the motion.
That contractors no longer be eligible to apply for payment of their labor.
Okay, so moved and seconded, discussion. Councilor Duncan and then Councilor McDermott.
I guess, through you, Warden, Bill, do you have any background on? We re-included that last year, right?
Through the warrant, I would believe it was reintroduced for last year's program after it was removed, and there was I believe, a decline in submissions when labor was removed from eligible expense through the program.
Okay. Councilor McDermott.
That's fine. That was my question. Like, what changed? No.
And for the record, I can concur that yes, that was the case. Once the labor component was not eligible, the applications did decline. We had a surplus. And then once it was reintroduced, then we had it was oversubscribed. So that's the history. Councilor Kasenberg, go ahead.
I guess it's just a comment that we don't unnecessarily want to put a drag on the actual planting of trees per county. And it seems like we've already had experience from what I just understood from staff and from the warden's comments as the chair of the agricultural working group that when you remove the opportunity for someone to hire someone to assist with that process, which is quite laborious, you then diminish the actual number of trees planted, which to me is concern. Like, if we want this to work, we want trees to be put in the ground. I appreciate that the council may have some questions about the concentration of money from this program into the hands of one or a very few number of contractors who do this work. But is that for us to adjudicate? Do we really feel that it's our place to decide which contractors should be working in this? And if they're ambitious and are working with landowners to get trees planted, should we interfere with that process? I'm not so sure. I'm feeling vaguely uncomfortable with that call myself, and maybe I just don't understand again. But at the same time, we're trying to provide the opportunity, the incentive to get trees in the ground, and that's a good thing. How that happens, I suppose there's questions of ethics or morality if we really want to sit and think about it, but I'm not sure that we're going to easily come to an answer of that. And to be draconian and say no contractors just doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah, thank you. Deputy Warden Orr, go ahead, and then Councilor Duncan afterwards.
Just to clarify, when the contractors do get business, less trees go in the ground. That's the point I'm trying to make. And if we're going to have staff bring back, I want the numbers here. Because I feel like the Upper Thames is presenting, their numbers are fantastic, so are Maitland. That is their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And that's what we pay for at category 3. And I feel like we added an extra step. We're duplicating a service. We are becoming nitpicky when it comes to, oh, we're going to pay for that and not for that. Again, go back to, I feel like this program shouldn't be for us to administer. I'm still happy to give money towards it, but I want it to go directly to the conservation authorities. And for us paying a contractor, I feel there's less trees going in there.
Councilor Duncan, you're next.
I guess maybe what I would like to see then is what percentage of the overall program has been spent on labor in the past couple, like, let's look at it from this year when we re-included labor and look at it from the year before when labor was not included. And then we can decide, is it $5 a tree that's going into planting the trees, or is it $2 a tree, or what percentage is it? And does it really increase or decrease the number of trees going in? Because there's an argument on both ways. If the program subscription decreased when we took out labor, that means less trees got planted then too, as opposed to just less trees got planted because we used contractor labor as part of the eligible costs. So I think there's maybe a little bit more reporting. I'm sure Hannah can give us those numbers quite easily. She can pull them out of the data, and maybe we could have those come back in September as well.
Councillor Kusenberg.
And thank you for another shot at this. I think, to Councillor Duncan's point, there was a hints of some wisdom in there. Perhaps what we need to be thinking about is a per tree or per number of trees labor cost that we would allow in an application. And that work could come from a little bit more staff analysis of the costs that we were seeing. We don't I don't want really expensive contractors doing this work, but I also acknowledge that people need to make a living. And if this is their livelihood, helping put trees into the farms and other properties in Perth County, then I'm happy enough to see them make a reasonable amount, but perhaps the wisdom is in what could that labor cap be?
Councillor Wilhelm, next.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Duncan. I guess when I looked at what we paid out in 2026, I compared the cost that the contractors charged for the trees versus what I paid up at Thames. And I certainly felt that the contractors' prices were inflated on numerous different items, let alone the trees. And I think that's where we need to draw the line somehow.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to seek through the clerk to enter into the discussion. And turn over the chair to the presiding chair. So through the presiding chair, labor. That's the work, really. That's the labor part, that's how the job gets done. And typically the prime time for planting is spring and fall, which coincides with spring planting, spring tillage, spring planting, fall harvest, fall planting. So if I'm a agricultural operator and I've got multiple acres of cropping to do, but I also want to get trees in the ground, the sequencing typically, tree planting coincides with the sequencing of the farm work, and I don't know too many farm operators that can be in more than one place at one time. So they're going to need help putting these trees in, and giving the average age of typical farm operator is not in the 20s or 30s, but in a different age bracket. They're going to need help getting work done. So there is the labor component that needs to be included in this project. To what extent? Yes, that would be worth the investigation to find out. But at the end of the day, there needs, the labor is the work, otherwise the trees just don't get planted, and you need the right kind of labor in order for the tree to have its best chance of surviving the initial period once they're in the ground. Once they're planted, that's the owner's responsibility, but under the program, but getting planted the right way, the right time, in the right place, that's where the labor part can be very helpful to especially newcomers that aren't as experienced in the planting as what a contractor might be. So those are my comments on the discussion. So
To you.
go ahead.
Just
I'll retain the chair and deputy work.
Go right back to Councillor Wilhelm's comments that
He worked with the conservation authorities. He had the labor through the conservation. So he got a lot of trees planted through the conservation authorities. I don't know why we're duplicating. Anyway, is there a motion on the floor?
Not current. We had, no direction.
Oh, there was a motion about the contract.
We, passed the motion with respect to the evaluation system. And we have the motion moved by yourself, seconded by Council Wilhelm, that contractors no longer be eligible to apply for payment of their labor within the program. So that is on board.
My apologies, I didn't hear the last part of the motion.
That contractors no longer be eligible to apply for payment for their labor within the program.
So it's moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Councilor McKenzie?
Well, I would, not, and if it was Councilor Caseberg, Councilor Duncan, I would support staff coming back with we would pay so much a tree. Put a cap on it for planting, but that's up to staff to come back with how much that number would be, what it costs, because I certainly have no idea, but I would support that idea, whichever one of you brought that up.
Not what
That's not-
motion to be.
No, well, I'm just saying, I should give you an idea of where I'm going.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All right, so we have a mover and seconder on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Those opposed? Motion's defeated. Councilor Duncan.
I'd like to offer an alternate motion that we have staff bring it back a report investigating putting a cap on the labor cost per tree planted.
Okay. Motion submitted. Is there a seconder? Councilor McDermott seconds that, or do you have a question?
No, it's just, are we gonna get a report back on the year that we had labor, year we didn't have labor?
Well, I think that's where we're going with Councilor Duncan's motion. Councilor, well,
Yeah, I was wondering if we could include in that, the price range for trees. Because, as I recall, there were some that were very expensive, and where I paid $45, we didn't paying over $200.
okay,
I'll second his motion.
all right,
If that's
so
what we need.
we're gonna have a lead motion by Councilor Duncan and then an amendment by Councilor Wilhelm. So Councilor Duncan has made a motion for staff report. Just go ahead.
So I'm willing to include Council Wilhelm's
Okay.
stuff in my motion so that we don't have to
All
do the
right, yeah,
amendment process.
so, okay, so I'll have the clerk read that. Please make it all one.
That staff be requested to report on the percentage of program disbursements related to labor and cost per tree and the capping of labor costs per tree planted and the range of tree prices.
Good, mover and seconder, okay, mover and seconder, discussion on that. Seeing none, I'll call the question, all those in favor of that motion? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, thank you. Item 8.4.2, the tender results for the winter sand. Bill.
Okay. Again, through you, switching gears here to some winter operations items. This report presents the results for tender 2026-031-05. And to request authorization to award a 2-year contract for the supply, delivery, mixing, and stockpiling of winter sand. This 2-year contract secures the aggregates required for winter road maintenance across for the upcoming 2026, 27, and 2027, 28 winter seasons. It represents a joint procurement effort servicing the county's 3 patrol yards alongside the township of Perth South Ramick Patrol Yard. This ultimately supports winter control operations for the county
road network and the road networks maintained by Perth East, Perth South, as well as West Perth. The procurement process was issued electronically, yielding 7 competitive submissions prior to its closing on July 9th. A summary of the bid submissions is tabled within the report. Following staff's review for completeness and material compliance, DJ Jackson Haulage Limited submitted the lowest compliant bid at $190,902.50, excluding HST. Staff have visited the source pits to physically observe and inspect the material. On-site samples were obtained by both locations. They were verified through laboratory gradation analysis through third party, and that confirmed that the material meets the standards for OPS Ontario provincial standards for winter sand material. Financially, this tender achieves excellent value, delivering a weighted average reduction of nearly 14% over closing rates from the previous contract. And Public Works staff from all participating municipalities have reviewed and are also supportive of the recommended award. That concludes my summary of the report. Any questions? I'd be happy to address them.
Thanks, Bill. Questions for Bill on this report? Deputy Warden Orr, go ahead, please.
Just a clarification, it is the Walsh pit, right?
Yes, through you, Warden Trenskowski. It's one of the pit locations as well on Perth line 26. Minor spelling error in my report. It should be an A instead of an E.
Yeah, no problem. I just gotta clean my windows a little part.
Councillor Douglas.
Just a question, Bill, with regards to quantity of sand after the last 2 hard winters. Is this gonna be enough if we have another winter the same?
Yeah, through the warden to Councillor Duncan, good point to bring up. Over the past winter season, we did have to bring in additional sand because we depleted our initial stockpiles throughout winter operations. Included in this year's or in this contract here is provisional items to provide those top-up requirements for the patrol yards if we run out during mid-season. So the county's covered there, and we have rates locked in for those provisional items, which are similar to the rates for the initial bulk fill.
Okay. All right, there's no more questions. No. All right, so recommendation read as follows in 3 parts. That council receives the tender results for winter sand report and that council awards tender 2026-031-05 to DJ Jackson Haulage Limited, and that council authorizes the warden and clerk to execute the agreement between the corporation of the county of Perth and DJ Jackson Haulage Limited. Moved by Councillor McDermott, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. Last call for discussion. Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is carried. All right, 8.4.3, 2025 draft asset management plan. We have Bill Wilson leading the report, supported by Corey Bridges, our finance department director. Gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Warden Trinkowski. Council, I will provide a brief summary of the staff report here, and then we do have a consultant joining us from Public Sector Digest who assisted the county in developing this version of the AMP. So the purpose of this report is to present the 2025 draft asset management plan for council's review and approval, ensuring that the county maintains full compliance with Ontario Regulation 588-17. This updated plan represents the final stage of the mandated provincial reporting. It captures the county's core infrastructure, such as roads, bridges, and culverts, alongside all non-core assets, including facilities, fleet, machinery, and computer systems. To build this document on our most accurate asset data, staff integrated our recently completed 2025 OSIM bridge data, as well as the structural inspections from those, and also considered the changes that were made in 2025 for the 2026 budget regarding the funding of municipal drains from the capital. So the county's corporate portfolio currently carries a combined asset value of 328.4 million through staff fieldwork and specialized engineering reports, including OSIMs and building condition assessment reports. Staff have verified the physical condition of 91% of those assets, with 76% of those having a condition which is fair or better. The financial framework within the plan identifies a long-term capital funding gap to fully sustain current service levels and prevent infrastructure backlogs over the next 10 years. The average annual capital requirement is 9.8 million. Because our substantial base funding sits at 7 million, the plan identifies an annual capital infrastructure deficit of 2.8 million. To steadily eliminate this deficit, the plan recommends a long-range 10-year financial forecasting strategy, averaging an annual tax change of 1.3%. I just want to clarify two key administrative points for council regarding this financial model, which Corey will be able to better explain. But first, approving this plan does not commit council to any immediate tax change. This is a high-level, long-range planning tool meant to guide future budgets and financial forecasting for asset replacements. Secondly, staff are aware of the variance between the plan's 1.3 baseline trajectory and the 2.6 infrastructure increase proposed in the draft 2027 corporate budget. This variance is intentional. The 2027 draft rate is temporary, front-loaded correction required to address recent operational deficits, specifically our winter maintenance and municipal drainage deficits from 2024 to 2025. This short-term correction stabilizes our capital reserves so we can successfully return to the plan's long-term 1.3% path in subsequent years. As mentioned, we do have a project consultant from PSD on hand with us today who will provide a brief presentation summarizing the technical highlights of the final document. Following our presentation, finance team, Corey, myself, and the consultant would be happy to address any questions. Thank you. I'll turn the floor over now to Chris Vanderheiden, who's the Director of Asset Management with PSD Citywide. He'll walk you through his slide presentation.
Thank you, Bill, Council and Warden for having me here today. Just wanted to confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you, Chris. Go ahead. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. I'll keep this very, very concise and to the point. I know that there's a heavy agenda this morning, so we'll keep to the facts and some of the things moving forward for the county. And I will have you advance the first slide, please. So on the agenda here today, we'll be looking at the project overview, requirements, timelines, the process, and then the findings of the asset management plan and the financial position to roll out such a plan. And also a brief overview of OREG 588. Next slide, please. And next slide. So the primary objective of this asset management plan is to meet the third phase of the OREG 588-17 compliance for the 2025 asset management plan that includes a proposed levels of service, life cycle strategies, and a financial plan to support those life cycle strategies and targets over the next 10 years. Secondary objective is obviously to consolidate and further refine the municipal data. And why that's very important is, although we do not need systems to do our work, we rely on systems to give us our reporting and help do our work more efficiently and report it more accurately. So the time and investment and resources going into data collection and data refinement is an important piece moving forward. Next slide, please. So in developing the 2025 asset management plan in Q4 2024 to Q4 2026, there's a lot of data refinement, which is very common among all municipalities. Our data that we have in our system was meant for TCA in the beginning. And then with the evolution of asset management, a lot of data work had to be done and a lot of reconfiguration to be able to support asset management. Many staff workshops throughout the process, and then obviously the draft process of the plan. I did want to mention, even though we are in 2026 and the plan was due in 2025, I want to highlight that I would say 50% of municipalities through Ontario did not meet the July 1st, 2025 deadline for the same reasons that most municipalities and yourselves have went through as well. Next slide, please. The process was continuous improvement on the asset register, getting great data, good information to be able to report out more accurately. Why is this important as well? When we look at OREG 588, we're shifting from a must-do to more accountability. We do know that by experience for other clients that grant funding applications are now being tied to the completion of these asset management plans. So I just wanted to highlight that. With the data within this asset management plan, 75% satisfied with the information and data. So there is a little bit of work to do going forward. Road assets, most important for community roads, sidewalks, and bridges. And the road, sidewalks, community centers are things which were identified as not meeting expectations. Now, expectations, there's interpretation along with that. Next slide. Staff workshops, as I mentioned, there was many workshops with many levels of engagement. Subject matter experts throughout the county, engineering experts, operations, maintenance, rehabilitation, and replacement. Costs were all derived from these workshops. Working sessions to understand what your current levels of service were actually at this time, as well as selecting what those targets might be going forward over the next 10 years and understanding the financial needs to go with that. Next slide, please. And next slide. So I wanted to highlight here over the timelines of OREG 588. It started out with the strategic asset management policy. And then it was 2021 and 2023, they pushed it out due to COVID. So in 2022, every municipality, all 444 municipalities in Ontario, had to develop an asset management plan for core infrastructure. In 2024, that also included non-core infrastructure. So that's all assets the county owns, as well as an update to the strategic asset management policy. And here we are today with the 2025 asset management plan that does include proposed levels of service, lifecycle management strategies, and a financial strategy to support that. Now, I do want to highlight that going forward, you do not have to update your plan annually, but you must bring forward an annual report to council and review the asset management plan as it was delivered to determine whether you're meeting targets, you're approaching targets, and if you're not, having discussions around what you can do to make sure that you start to make progress towards those targets. The next asset management plan update is due in 2030, so not that far off, another 3.5 years, and we're into another round. I do want to highlight in the past asset management plans, when we go prior to OREG 588 and PSAB, asset management plans were not a requirement. But going forward, this is not a once and done report. It's very dynamic. Data is going to change, costs are going to change, conditions are going to change. And this is a dynamic document that must be married to your data going forward. So we have to keep in mind that this plan will evolve. It will change year over year as things change within each municipality. Next slide, please. Now I should advance mine here in the next slide. So now we look at the replacement costs. As mentioned earlier by Bill, the county owns $328.4 million in assets, in infrastructure and assets. Now, for any of you that sat on council with another municipality in the past, if you're listening, or the council here today, things have changed dramatically over the last 5 to 7 years. The cost of everything has doubled and tripled in some cases for some remote northern municipalities. So in some cases, this has been a staggering change, getting good updated replacement costs. In some cases, we see a 30 to 40% increase in replacement cost of infrastructure. So keep that in mind as we go through this plan. The importance on this is replacement cost methodology, not just relying on CPI tables to inflate historical costs, but actually true valuation costs from today in the industry. Updating information through BCAs and roading studies and OSIM reports will lower your annual reinvestment needs going forward because the data is much more consistent and much better to determine what your needs are. Next slide, please. We look at the condition graph, and yes, this is a snapshot, but when we start thinking about the long term, and Bill mentioned this earlier, this plan is forward thinking. We're looking into the future. How much money do we have to pay for things in the future? And the condition graph is a very good indication. At a high level, we look at, hey, this is a good news story. The majority of assets are in good condition. Second in line is in fair condition. But what that represents possibly is a big wave of needs coming forward sometime in the future. So these graphs do paint a picture. Next slide, please. And broken down by asset category individually is even more important. So we can see bridges and culverts come out on top with, the majority being in good condition. But if we look at facilities, and these are ones that pop out to me, that stand out in my mind from a visualization, the majority of assets that were assessed through BCA's 100% condition through your BCA's indicate that there's $17.1 million of assets that are in fair condition. That is a huge wave of needs coming forward in the facilities alone. So I just wanted to highlight that. Next slide, please. And if we look at the condition, this is a good news story. Most municipalities do not have even close to this amount of assessed condition on their assets. That is why this asset management plan actually holds a lot more weight than most do, because the condition supports the projections going forward. Road network, 83% assessed. Bridges and culverts, it is regulated 100%. Not all municipalities have 100%, even though it's regulated. Computer systems, it's mainly based on, they're cyclical. We buy, we set, we replace, not necessarily need physical assessed condition, but fleet, 84%, and machinery and equipment, 77%. Overall, 91% of assets have assessed condition, this is a good news story for municipalities. We don't see this very often. Next slide, please. And next slide. So I won't get into detail here, but as I mentioned earlier, under the legislative requirements, we do have to look at your levels of service targets, the risks associated with those proposed levels of service, how they're different from your current levels of service, are proposed levels of service achievable, and ability to afford the proposed levels of service target. So in other words, this is all part of this 2025 requirement. Next slide, please. So what PSD staff and Perth County staff did was they developed scenarios, is the what ifs. And to make it short, if we spend less money, what does that look like in the future? If we spend a little bit more money, what's that look like in the future? Or if we do exactly what we're doing, what does that give us in return? And you can refer to sections, 4.6, 5.6, 6.6 of all the asset categories and get an indication of this. And I'm sure you've probably already reviewed that. Next slide, please. So I will just jump to what the decision was moved to scenario one. Scenario one is selected and will form the basis of the discussion in this presentation. So in other words, utilize your current asset management practice, derive an average annual requirement based on these practices, and then project the condition and investment required to support that. Next slide. And if we look at bridges and culverts, it seems to be the one that the reinvestment is more significant. Well, the county does own a lot of bridges and culverts, structural culverts throughout the county. And the cost of replacement and rehabilitation of these assets is not cheap. And that's why it comes out higher than most. For the most part, there are some good news stories in there with minimal investment or an annual investment required to be able to achieve these goals. Next slide, please. And we'll just skip to the next slide since we're at 12 o'clock and get to the financial picture. Next slide. And one more, please. There we go. So if we look at the financial outlook based on that scenario, the county is looking at a 14.1% increase overall in taxes to be able to support the tax rate changes for each individual asset category. And if we look at, according to statistics, the municipal average is 44% funded for their infrastructure needs. And sorry, I have to plug in my laptop. It just told me it's going to die on me. There we go. So most municipalities on average are only funded at 44% of the needs. Perth County, however, is funded at 81.5%. So even though we're looking at a tax increase, this is a very good news story. We don't see this every day as well. Next slide, please. So as recommended, we're looking at, and of course, Bill had explained up front, a more aggressive increase for reasons that he can explain in more detail. But we recommend a 1.3% annual tax increase year over year over the next 10 years. However, this can change based on data and information that comes in. And next slide. And on to the next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, asset management is evolving in the county. I've personally worked with PSD Citywide over the last 10 years. I come from Oxford County myself prior to coming to PSD Citywide. So I've had the joy of working with Perth County staff over the years and seeing this evolve from 2016 forward. And there's been an immense amount of progress made over the years. The county started small and moved forward. The proposed level of service projections are required for the next 10 years. However, they must be revisited in 5 years. As I mentioned earlier, our next plan is due in 2030. And with that, it's very, I can't say it enough, is to place a lot of emphasis on keeping your data up to date annually, getting the right condition assessments done when needed, updating the replacement costs, and spending the time to actually keep the data integrity accurate moving forward. I feel that the county feels, and staff feel that these targets are tangible, they're realistic, and the financial sustainable targets for the next 10 years are realistic goals set. Next slide, please. Key action items is, again, obviously we'd like to see council approve by resolution the asset management plan as presented and authorize staff to post the document to the county's website. And why that's important, because if you were to apply for a grant application and if your AMP is not posted publicly to the website, and they do look at this, they may deny your application for grant funding. So it's an important step moving forward. I know that was very quick, but now we'll move on to questions and answers. And thank you everyone for listening in.
Excellent. Thanks, Chris, on report. Councilors, any questions for our staff or Chris, our consultant on this report? Councilor Wilhelm, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. I realize that this report is in general, but I have to pick out a few things. On page 61, the ambulance stations or office building, it shows less than $100,000 over the next 10 years. But I think if you ask Mike, he'd like to see a new ambulance station in Listle before 10 years is out. So that shows nothing there. Page 62, it shows a greater value of $267,230. I think a new grader costs around $800,000. And this grader's, according to the report, has only 4 years left of its life, but there's no purchase of a grader in 10 years. And I'm not sure how that reflects on our asset management. And last but not least, on page 89, I think it should indicate that the lower tiers look after schools, rec centers, etc., not the county.
Yes, thank you for that. And I'm sure through you, Mr. Warden, yeah, a lot of these are assumptions. But when we look at graders, equipment, I'm going to use an example, vehicles, for example. They're typically replaced on a cyclical basis. Condition may say otherwise. Maybe after another 4 years, that grader is still in operational use because it's in better shape than what we anticipated. So I don't know the details to the decisions and to the numbers to this asset management plan, because obviously I was not the asset management advisor that was not available today to present. But I would more than welcome any input from any of the staff on Perth County side as where these numbers had come from.
Yeah, right. Go ahead. Through the word to Councilor Wilhelm's question. The first question related to the paramedic base. That is we kind of looked at as a growth item. And there has been no approval at the council table related to that growth type of item. That is more of a decision. I obviously, yes, Mike would like to see a new paramedic base in Listowel. This would not include that in that discussion, but it would be one of those items that would come back to council on how this reflects to those items that are coming down the pipe. As for the grader, maybe the inflation index that was included within the citywide software wasn't in coordination with the overall inflation that we have seen on graders. Yes, it's probably one of the items that maybe should be updated for the purpose of this. But again, it would be something within the software that dictated what that increased value of those items would have been. And then the third item related to school boards and recreation centers, yes, to highlight that as being a lower tier item and not a upper tier item, and we'll make that change within asset management plan. Anything else, Councillor? No? Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, seeing none. Recommendation reads that council receives the 2025 draft asset management plan report and that council approves 2025 draft asset management plan as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith. Is there a seconder? Do you want per the amendments? Oh, yeah, as per, yeah. That council approves the 2025 draft asset management plan as presented and as per comments reflected by council in the report. That work? Okay, so mover. Who moved that? Councillor Wilhelm, seconded, or sorry, Councillor Smith moved it, sorry. Yeah, and seconded by Councillor Wilhelm, my apologies. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, thanks, Chris. Okay. Council reports 9.1, that Warden's activity report for June 26 has been posted. Any questions from councilors on that report? Seeing none, recommendation is that council receives the Warden's activity report June 2026 for information. Moved by Deputy Warden Orr, seconded by Councillor Duncan. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, bylaw. So we have bylaw 408126 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into and execution of an agreement between the corporation of the County of Perth and DJ Jackson Haulage Limited to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed the 6th day of August 2026. By Deputy Warden Orr, second by Councillor Kasenberg. Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Item 11, notices of motion. None have been received prior to. Just checking with council to see if there are any to be tabled. Seeing none. Other business, turn to council if anyone has other business. I think Councillor Wilhelm, you had something you wanted to bring forward. Go ahead, please.
Yes, just to be clear and transparent, Lloyd Robertson was my great uncle, and unfortunately, the county does not have their flag at half staff. And I was disappointed that an icon like Lloyd Robinson that promoted Perth County and the city of Stratford, we shouldn't have respect to fly our flag at half staff, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you for the comment, Councillor Wilhelm. We had this discussion earlier, we being myself, the deputy warden, and CAO, and I was waiting to bring this up to council for their consideration. I wanted to ask before proceeding, so nonetheless, you brought it forward. So it was held in abeyance until I could get all of council's input on this before doing it. recognizing, yes, Mr. Robertson has been an icon, not only locally, but nationally and internationally. And has ties to the county well, so take that as direction to give to staff that we will lower the flag forthwith. And what's the appropriate time to raise the flag? It would be after the funeral, if we know what that date is, or I looked last night and I couldn't find any obituary information, but I'll leave that to staff to find that out. So, okay, thank you, Councillor Wilhelm, for bringing that up. Any other business that we need to attend to? Okay, seeing none. Announcements, are there any announcements at this time? Okay, seeing none. Closed session, meeting and reporting out. We do have one closed session item that we need to address, and in accordance with the Section 239 of the Municipal Act, we do have a closed session we want to enter in at approximately 12:13 p.m. In accordance with Section 239 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001 C25 as amended, to consider one matter relating to labor relations negotiations. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Duncan so moves, seconded by Councillor Wilhelm. All those in favor? Votes if any. So we will move into closed session. Start that momentarily. All right, time is 12:37. We've dealt with our prescribed item under the closed session. So we have more items to deal with. That's the confirmatory bylaw. It's item 16.1. Resolution reads as follows: that bylaw 4082-2026 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council of the Corporation of the County of Perth at its regular meeting held August 6, 2026, is read the first, second, and third time, finally passed August 6, 2026. Moved by Councillor Wilhelm, second by Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed if any? That's carried. And the motion to adjourn. We've concluded all of our prescribed business for today. The council meeting be adjourned at approximately 12:38 p.m. Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Duncan. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.